Steph and LeBron. It was the Lakers versus the Warriors for their fourth game of the season. The Lakers were up 3-0 on the series for the season. Last night, the Warriors won on the road in LA against the Lakers.
Warriors by 7.
Okay.
Green sets a screen. Curry 3.
Good aggression right there on that screen.
Right there. Here's a 3. LeBron.
LeBron with a little, what is this, Spider-Man celebration?
Snakes feeds Green side. It's Pajemski. His 3. Pajemski now up to 28. It's a Reeves 3.
We've been kind of sometimes bashing a little bit on basketball in the NBA and efforts. But when we watch this, you see right here, the stakes are high and it's incredibly exciting. If you watch like the last 5 or 6 minutes of that basketball game, incredible effort, incredible intensity. And this is kind of exactly what basketball needs. And my question is, where do we think the NBA goes after losing these guys? Because we've talked a lot about the lack of a definitive face of the league, and kind of LeBron and Steph have been those guys. And we see it right here with just the excitement and the energy in this basketball game. Where do we think the NBA goes without these kind of guys?
I think it's going to be totally fine. There's part of me thinks that Steph, while he's up there in age, his style of gameplay lends toward at least extending his longevity by another at least 5 years. And I think within that time, there are going to be enough guys coming through the ranks. I mean, we're watching the NCAA tournament right now. Guys like Cooper Flagg are going to be coming in, and there's going to be high levels. I mean, you got Joe Morant, who's just jumping out of the gym, doing insane dunks. I mean, you got Giannis is still a very young dude. Like, he's going to be still very prominent. And I think in terms of energy, it's still going to be at a super high level. I think the one thing that I kind of bristle at here is I understand the back and forth here, throwing punches, shooting threes. Like, it's really exciting, sure. But it's absurd that we saw one drive there and one kick out by Steph. It is still kind of nuts to see this is pop a shot. And it's just like, oh, you made that one. Oh, you made that one. But it's not like, I wouldn't say the energy is the same as what we grew up with. And I know that's like old man on the porch shaking his finger and hoping and wishing that something was what it once was, and having an embellished view on what that was. But this is a problem in the NBA. This is the style of play.
I'm with you on a little bit of that, but also I know we've criticized the prevalence of the 3-point shot a lot, but in the context of this, I'm fine with just a bunch of, as you said, pop shots, as long as the game level is intense. We're seeing like these screens. We saw Draymond do that screen on Luka, knock him down, and guys playing very, very aggressive defense, trap defense. And okay, it just so happens that 3-pointers are able to be created. 3-point shots are able to be created. Okay, the other thing that I thought was interesting about this game, or not just this game, but the Warriors in general, since the trade for Jimmy Butler, is, check this out. They're 19-2 when Steph and Jimmy Butler play. They have had just a complete resurgence since that Jimmy Butler trade, which I think was right around the trade deadline. And I don't remember the exact stats, but also Steph Curry's individual performance has popped up significantly since Jimmy Butler has been on the basketball court. And Jimmy Butler didn't do anything special last night. I think actually he didn't really even play that well. I think he had like 10 or 11 points, but still this Warriors team is just clearly revitalized with him to the point now that we're talking about, okay, they're going to make like a playoff push. All right. So we'll see. That would be really exciting to see them in the playoffs as a series, Warriors versus Lakers. Also, one final thing on this, because I just love this trend. This is one of my favorites, because Luka did not play well last night. I think it was like 6 for 20, and Shane Gillis just catching Luka Doncic versus the Warriors. And it's just, we've seen this format in a lot of different athletes this year. This is my new favorite format. Beautiful. Beautiful. So shout out to Luka, who fell down on the screen. All right. The other thing on the NBA front that I really am curious to talk to you guys about is, okay, Ja Morant. Now, he has had some issues in the past. He's been suspended, and he has been issued a warning for his gun celebration. Here it is on April 1st. And then he did it again last night. We also do have a video of it, because we're not in the business of trying to take things out of context and just put a photo up. So let's show also the video of Ja Morant here. We don't need sound, but he hits the 3, boom. And then he's obviously doing the gun celebration. Now, we can't forget that he's had issues in the past with guns. So there was an issue after I think when they played the Pacers a couple of years ago, where part of his entourage or people in his group, there was a laser beam aimed at somebody that he had a beef with, and the security guards around the stadium or the arena said, "Oh yeah, this was definitely a gun." And this was John Morant was in this car, and they don't know all the details of it. The NBA investigated. I think they ended up suspending him. He also had the incidents with I think was it on Instagram Live?
Yeah.
Yeah, this also, and he also got suspended for this with like brandishing a firearm. And then so he has these gun celebrations. I've got a opinion on this, but I want to hear your thoughts first.
I don't understand why there's become this just necessity to celebrate after every single play. I mean, it's bled into the NFL as well, and we talked about the no swipe being eliminated here, and for reasons that are, I don't know, a little weak in my opinion. But at the same time, it gets to the point of I don't understand why athletes these days have to celebrate every single time they do their job. And I get it. That's old man on the porch, like I said, but it's still frustrating. It's like, dude, yeah, you made a three. That's exactly what you're on the court to do. You're there to make buckets and defend. And doing these celebrations and then taking it to the degree of like likening it to a weapon is just, dude, where are we at right now? What are we doing?
Okay.
Completely
Okay.
agree. This is why the Patriots are so cool and so good, and I love the culture, the Belichick culture. Just do your job. You were expected to do this job. I don't know if this is true, but I used to hear that he wouldn't allow the team to celebrate like crazy in the locker room after
Yeah.
wins. Okay, at the Patriots, because it's like, what are you telling me? We did what we planned to do. We did our job. You were supposed. Would you not expect to win? Why are you celebrating like crazy? This is like the more you celebrate after these baseline plays is the more you go, oh my gosh, I did not expect to do that. I never thought I'd make a three. It's really kind of pathetic.
You
The other
guys
thing
are
on this is that's why I love the Barry Sanders. Okay.
Yeah.
Never celebrated, score 60-yard, incredible touchdown, hand the ball to the ref. Yeah, I'm at work. This is my job. I did what I was supposed to do. I scored. No celebration. I expected to do the good thing that I trained to do.
you guys are incredibly bleak and incredibly depressing and are trying to suck the joy and happiness out of sports. Now, that's not to say that I support Ja Morant and his gun celebration, but to take such a hard stance on celebrating within sports, okay? Showing a little emotion and being excited about doing a good job. Hey, I know it's their job. It's different than sitting at an office and typing in something into Excel. You don't celebrate that, maybe a little. But if I hit a 360 dunk or a huge TFL,
You've never seen me post email send. Boy, that I just light it up after that. That's a huge win for me.
What
No,
do you do?
look,
Yeah.
there's a complete
What's the
there's a-
office equivalent? What's the in-office equivalent? It's that. Send an email, get up, do a first down.
I hear what you're saying, Nick, but there's a difference, and taking it to the example that Mikey was talking about within football, there's a difference between scoring and celebrating and getting a first down and celebrating, or getting a catch and celebrating, or getting a tackle and celebrating. It's just like it keeps getting to lower and lower degrees. At a certain point, people are just going to start celebrating once the ball is snapped. And it's just going to be like, yeah, I'm on the football field kind of thing. It's just like, I made it. So it's getting to a point of absurdity where it's like this whole thing is becoming just a show, and it's not about competition. It's like, that's why it frustrates me within basketball, because one, we have the element of pop a shot, and then guys, after they make that pop a shot, they go and do stuff like this. And it's just like, dude, get back on defense. Like,
I do. Hey,
we all
okay.
saw you shoot it, and we all saw you make it, and we're all cheering. You don't need to join in.
I support you in your get back on defense sentiment. But however, like when we're going back to say that little clip we just watched at the end of the Warriors-Lakers game where LeBron hit that three in the corner, I think over Draymond, and he did like the Spider-Man celebration. It's like, that was actually a big three, kind of crunch time, pretty legit shot. So I don't think that one in particular, I know you're not talking about that, but I'm just trying to give an example of like, I think it's okay for what could be maybe like a mundane play, just hitting a three in some situations to celebrate and show a little bit of emotion. But
Yeah.
I do want to get into this Ja Morant gun thing, because like we saw this also bleeding down into college with one of the guys we were just talking about it, the dude on the bench for at St. John's or one of the red uniform teams who like got down in a prone position and did a gun celebration. We see it with youth sports more and more now. And I think in particular the gun celebration, which obviously the NBA is cracking down on, I think the NFL has similar rules, are not, there's no place for this kind of stuff.
I agree, and this is all, like we've seen in the past those videos of youth basketball kids like having fake tattoos and acting and
Yes.
having this like these crazy attitudes. The example these guys are setting with the gun celebrations, what are you doing? I think you got to crack down on that because you see how it trickles down to the youth, and it's really kind of becoming increasingly important to make sure there's a real good example set.
Here is, Stephen A. Here, just to push back on the other side of things. Stephen A. says, come on, NBA and the rest of us, totally unnecessary. Let Joe Morant play in peace. Let's not look for things. The playoffs are about to begin. Let's enjoy the games. Morant didn't do anything flagrant. Folks are reaching now. Do you think Stephen is there any credibility to this side of the argument?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with him to a certain extent because I've been vocal about having refs dictate a lot of the outcomes of games, especially when the games are incredibly consequential, right? So I don't think the NBA or referees should necessarily be looking for things, but I think there's a line that you cross. And yes, I may have personal issues with the post-play celebrations and everything like that, but once you start doing like weapons and violence within the game, it's just kind of like there literally is no place for that. You can celebrate, but how is that a celebration? That's more that, like, talk about taunts. We're penalizing guys for staring at another dude. There's a vast difference between those two. So I think that's where you cross the line when the taunt becomes an actual mode of violence. It's kind of just like, that's odd. Why would that be here in this sport?
Yeah, there's really no other way to interpret a gun celebration other than I am making a threat of violence against you. Whereas if you just stare somebody down, that can mean a lot of different things. That can be, like what we saw in March Madness. Who was it that got called for the technical for the stare down after the three? It's like, that's pathetic.
BYU player.
The BYU, Mormon kid. 29-year-old BYU freshman, as they tend to be. All right, so NBA playoffs starting pretty soon, and we're probably going to see the Warriors and the Lakers in there, and hopefully Luka gets out of his Shane Gillis phase. And the other thing is Luka, this is the first time in like 140 some NBA games that Luka did not hit a three. He was 0 for 6.
Oh, wow.
So a little off there for our boy Luka. All right. On the positive note here in the NFL, our boy Geno obviously headed to the Raiders earlier this year, and they finally got a deal done, extending him to a 2-year, $85.5 million extension, $66.5 million guaranteed for Geno Smith. And this is a guy, obviously, who started off his career not very great, was kind of deemed and on the trajectory to be a career backup, and had a huge resurgence in Seattle. And this deal makes him the 17th highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Break it down right here. So 17th highest paid quarterback in the NFL. First of all, thoughts on this deal for Geno Smith? 2 years. He's a little bit older, so 2 years. And is he really the 17th or deserved of just the 17th highest paid quarterback position in the NFL?
Obviously, he signed the line and everything like that, so he's totally fine with the payment. And you are what you're worth, which somebody's willing to pay you. So obviously, within himself, he knows he's better, and he believes himself to be better than the 17th, call it, rated guy in the NFL as a quarterback. And I would put money on it that, if I had any, that Tom Brady was in his ear and talking to him about things, and probably has a mode of or a modicum of mentorship going on here.
Right.
And because Tom Brady was notoriously known for taking very, very team friendly deals, and that guy could have demanded the world. He could have demanded ownership of the team probably while he was there at the Patriots, but he didn't. And with that came wild success. One, due to his hard work and his dedication and so on and so forth. And he was the GOAT in my estimation. Plus they had a great coach, but they were able to go out and get and build a roster to help him year in and year out. And the only way they were able to do that was because he didn't demand the world.
Yeah, exactly. Taking a team-friendly deal, and we're seeing similar stuff like with a Mahomes. And I do like that theory. I'm sure that there's some mentorship there going with Tom Brady. You talked about Geno being in like the top half of the NFL quarterbacks. Well, check this out. He's been literally the most accurate quarterback in the NFL, and for past the 3 seasons, and second most accurate last season. He's also always, I think, was leading the league or second behind Joe Burrow in passing yards. So he's been very, very productive, and I can't think of a guy who has had such a change in trajectory from the start of their career to now. Like when you look at Geno on the Jets to then, okay, Geno, what he did in Seattle, and now getting this contract. Is there any other player that you can think of that had such a turnaround like this?
Well, first one that comes to mind is Baker. Granted, he had an incredible rookie year, and I believe he won Rookie of the Year, if I'm not mistaken. My morning brain won't. I don't remember.
Yeah, but it's different when you're a number 1 overall pick because you'll be given so many more chances. I think it's so much more impressive with Geno, the way he has, because it's kind of like he just willed it out of himself versus someone like Baker. If you're a first overall pick, people are going to give you a lot of opportunities to try to prove that you're worthy of that slot. But someone like Geno, it's going to be way more difficult.
When was Geno picked? What round? Mike,
he was 39th overall in 2013.
Second rounder?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's also, I just thrown up the quarterback salaries right here. This is, I don't know if this is completely accurate because I just said we had Geno at 17th, but now I think this puts him at 12th. I guess it kind of depends on the average annual value, but Scott, these are actually, you should be looking at these New Balances. This is dad era shoes. So I'm hoping that you've got a pair of the Air Monarchs or some New Balances to complete your dadness. But just looking at the quarterbacks, anybody paid more than Geno besides your boy, Scott Deshaun, who you think doesn't deserve to be? I'm always questioning Kyler Murray. I'm always questioning that Kyler Murray payment. What do you think?
He has the luxury of being in an Arizona market where they get talked about preseason, and then all of a sudden we stop talking about them after like week 4, and you kind of just get a hide in the shadows. I think Kyler has had some pretty solid years, but I don't think it's garnered the productivity that the number amount here has him at. And I honestly think this may be a hot take, but I would say he's probably on the hot seat in terms of performance, and the Cardinals, who need a serious jolt of energy. And obviously they have Harrison Jr. over there in hopes of bringing about some offensive production and some W's over there. But at the same time, I think if that doesn't work out, I think Kyler is a massive trading chip that they have. But over time, it's seemingly a depreciating asset if he doesn't perform.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting because that's a tough division right there with the Rams and the Niners, and the Seahawks are just like always solid. Well, maybe not anymore without Geno. Although Sam Darnold, Seahawks are still going to be just fine. So that NFC West is it's tough to get out of there. And I'm with you, dude. I could see Kyler turn it into some sort of trade asset here pretty soon. Speaking of assets, okay, players trying to sign long-term contracts. Your state of Ohio, Scott, Cincinnati Bengals, Trey Hendrickson. So he went on the Pat McAfee show, okay, and there's these comments from an executive or an owner on the Bengals, right? Katie Blackburn. They've been trying to get a deal done, apparently. And Trey Hendrickson was the sack leader for the NFL this past season. And then she says, I think he should be happy at certain rates that maybe he doesn't think he'd be happy at, Blackburn said. I think some of it is on him to be happy at some point. And if he's not, that's what holds it up sometimes. Good sentence structure. So, it takes him to say yes to something. And also, we have all the respect in the world for him. He's been a great player. We're happy to have him. So maybe we'll find a way to get something to work. We're just going to see where it goes.
Who wrote this? A third grader?
Katie Blackburn. The Bengals just hate defensive players. They hate them. They wish that they could just play 7-on-7 offensive football. They've got no respect for defense. We're talking about the sack leader for the NFL. Obviously, Trey Hendrickson not happy, trying to sort of dance around it and be classy, which I respect, but clearly upset about the way that this is all being handled, the way that it's being communicated with him. So they're not really contacting his agents. So we're talking about a premier defensive player in the NFL. And we just watched the Bengals get done 2 other deals, obviously for offensive players. What do you think about those?
Yeah, I mean, you could say premier. The guy was the NFL sack king this year, and it's not like this was a flash in the pan season for him. He's produced ever since he's been in the league, and it's only gone up and up each year. And what I loved about what he was saying right here is that like this conversation, it hasn't been happening in the bubble of this past season. This has been on the radar and on his radar for 2-3 years now. And the fact that he was like, okay, we'll pause, we'll wait, we can continue these conversations later over those years. And his play has only gotten to the level that it has. And then all of a sudden he's sitting atop the league in this regard as being a defensive end. There's really no leg, in my opinion, that the Bengals ownership can stand on for not paying this man. And maybe it's not to the degree of Myles Garrett, because that's an insane amount of money. But at the same time, you got to get in the ballpark. And it clearly you're not in the ballpark if he's sitting there and saying these things. And the fact that there hasn't been any communication, this is like, as Mikey's brought up before, this is the Michael Scott negotiation sort of tactic. It's like, I'm not going to be the first one to talk at the table with you, but I'm going to go out and talk to the media. And I think that's one of the most absurd statements you can make as an owner, that this guy at a certain point, there's an element of truth in what she's saying, but it's still absurd that this guy just needs to be happy with the money that we're offering him. And then he needs to go out and perform and risk his health, risk his, everything, his career for this dollar amount. Look, the guy has done incredible things for the most porous defense I think I've seen in years in the NFL. He is your only dude that's producing, for all intents and purposes. And they lost a leader in Hubbard, the other defensive end on their team this past year. They need leadership. And this is the guy to take them into the next realm and to take them into the next step. And the fact that you're turning off the spending spigot for this guy is absurd when you just broke off Jamar Chase and T. Higgins.
I mean, I know we can all sit here in our armchairs and talk about how we would do things. And I would have, if you had to choose one, I would actually go with Trey Hendrickson over T. Higgins. No disrespect to T. Higgins, but there's a lot of wide receiver talent, man. You can get every draft has wide receiver talent. You already have Jamar Chase. You can get a number 2. I know they like to talk about each other as 1A, 1B. They're both wide receiver number 1s. You never really have 2 wide receiver number 1s. Go get a talented 2 in the 3rd round. Get a guy that and pay your premier pass rusher, man. I just don't get it.
Yeah,
I agree. It's so much harder to find elite pass rushing talent than receiving talent. Yeah. Like you're saying, good receivers are a dime a dozen. They're all over the place. There's hundreds of guys who come out running 4.3s that, if you gave them an opportunity, could produce at a high level in the NFL. It's very difficult to build the craftsmanship of a good pass rusher and DN and just a game disruptor like him.
Yeah. And to further that point, there's a proliferation of guys who aren't even running 4.3s. They're running 4.4s, 5s, and 6s that are still high production dudes in the NFL. Like you look at Cooper Kupp, and obviously, he's had injury issues, but he was one of those examples. And there are a multitude of other guys. I mean, the Patriots did it for years with the little guys in Wes Welker and taking on an older Randy Moss and everything like that. And there are ways to formulate offenses and teams that are strategic and still very potent on the offensive side without giving the farm away to top names. And I would say, like, even from an ownership standpoint, why wouldn't you want to, secure your wide receiver 1, but why would you not want to think about the other side of the ball at the same time and secure, maybe something's got to give, and you're going all in on an offense that's already producing at the highest capacity.
Yes.
Like, how much more, like, paying them isn't going to make them perform at an even higher capacity. I don't know if you can actually do much better than what they did last year on offense.
You can't. The Bengals are just proving to me that they don't care about winning games. They just care about scoring points and having exciting touchdowns. And they're fine to lose 60-70, which they're going to do. in a lot of
Yeah,
different ways.
this is the
It's
difference
an
between the
exciting game.
Fun to watch.
this is the difference between the sports of, say, NBA basketball and NFL football, right?
Right.
NFL football, you can't, like, very rarely do just incredible stellar offenses win it all or get super far without having a formidable defense. And that doesn't mean you have to have a top 5 defense, but you have to have something within the range of the top 12 in order to be competitive, even when you have the top offense, because you can't, it's just impossible to continue to clip at that level and score that many points when you're in the league of men.
Look at what Joe Burrow did last year, the incredible numbers that he was putting up, the incredible MVP level performance that he was having, and he was kind of the only top level quarterback who did not make the playoffs last year. And that's due to the fact that they had absolutely no defense. What else can you do on offense? I know it's cliche, but they love to say, and it's true, the defense wins championships. It's like, offense is fun and pretty, but look, you're going to end up at 8-9 and miss the playoffs again. And this is the direction that you're headed. They have learned nothing from their season last year.
Yeah, defense wins Super Bowls, especially in the playoffs. They're the ones who take you over the edge, because a lot of times teams may be out of their element. I mean, Bengals are a little different because they play in the elements and they're up there in the north, but this is where defense actually matters, is once you make it into the playoffs. Offense can get you to the playoffs, right? But taking it to the next level is the defense, and that's those are the playoff winning teams, is those who have the top 12 defense. And going back to this, is I wonder if Trey Hendrickson, the reason he is in this situation is maybe there's a perception that he is, by all intents and purposes, he's a pretty quiet dude. He's just a producer. He goes out there and balls week in, week out. I wonder if that is actually a harmful element to this negotiation year with him. Is there's a perception that he's willing to go along to get along, and he's willing to take the lumps for the team's betterment and so on and so forth. But at a certain point, you're pushing a guy who is absolutely a locker room like plus for your guys' instability and as we were talking about on the defense as well. I wonder if that perception is really seeping in here as being like, oh, he'll be fine. We can wait. We can slow play this a little bit. He'll be loyal because that's just who he's shown to himself to be. And it's like, dude, at a certain point, you're playing your cards probably incorrectly here.
Yes, he seems like a very, very nice guy, sort of a glue guy, do anything for the team sort of fellow. And I think there's a lot of credibility to that theory right there. Like, we just saw Myles Garrett publicly put out the statement, I want to be traded. I want to go play for a winner. All of a sudden, boom, okay, Cleveland gets it done. Highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. And Trey Hendrickson, by just going along and saying, hey, yeah, I want to be here. I'll do anything to be here. It's just, organizations do not care about the individual. We individuals think that the organizations care about us, and you play for a team for a long time and you think there's loyalty there. They do not care about you. And right now, Trey Hendrickson, it pains me to say, it feels a little naive in being so nice, I would say, and so team friendly. He's got to get a little bit tough.
Well, that's why he's going on these shows now, is because he's shedding that quiet nature, and he's just like, no, enough is enough. Like, I have given up a lot of money over the past couple of years. I've kicked the can down the road. I've produced at the same time exponentially each year. So the bill is coming due, Bengals. Like, that's the moment you're in.
Bill is coming
Unless
due.
there's a threat of him leaving and actually like making some noise, they're just going to keep taking advantage of him. And it's good that he's finally kind of realizing that and trying to get out and say something. But being nice is going to get you nowhere.
Nope. Organizations love to take advantage of the individual. I had to learn that the hard way. No loyalty for me. No loyalty for me for organizations. Okay. Let that be a lesson, Trey. Last thing on the NFL is the trade to the Cowboys. So the Cowboys traded for backup quarterback. Sorry. Let me try and throw this up here. So Joe Milton was with the Patriots last year. Okay. As a rookie. He played in one game. He played in the final week of the season against the Buffalo Bills, who were sitting a lot of their starters for playoffs. He played great. He went 22 for 28 or 22 for 29. He had like 115 passer rating, and people were generally pretty impressed with how he performed. Now, he got traded to the Cowboys for higher capital than he was actually drafted. So he was drafted in the 6th round, and they traded for him for a 5th round pick. So he was an appreciating asset. Now, There are, and we've got Mac Jones up on here as well, just to show a little comparison, to take a shot at Mac Jones, who was a first-round pick and ended up getting traded for a sixth-round pick. So talk about a depreciating asset. But bring this up because we have heard some people talking about how this might be a threat to Dak Prescott. Listen to this.
I'll just be honest, man. Listen, if Dak Prescott has a postseason like he's always had, going to that next year, right? Dak, find a realtor. Joe Milton got talent, he can play. And I'll say this, y'all laughing all that. I've seen other quarterbacks get paid a lot of money and they move on from it. Right?
We've seen it happen.
Okay.
We've seen it happen. Hey, that's breaking news for the Dallas.
Okay. This guy thinks that Milton is going to be a threat to take Dak Prescott's starting spot. What do you think?
Maybe.
Jerry seems to just love Dak so much.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's just a vastly
Doesn't matter
different
what
scenario.
Dak does. Yeah, they're friends.
Jerry does hate to depart from his favorite players. It's really hard for him with Zeke, which you know what?
Yeah.
Bad business. I admire it. I admire it just like I admire his appearance in Landman where he won me over. And
this is why I was so surprised at your take last episode where we were talking about the Micah Parsons conversation. He just wanted to sit down and have that mano-y-mano conversation, like he were sitting at the bedside table of that guy in Landman.
John Hamm.
Yeah, we just finished talking about how organizations take advantage of players.
All organizations,
except Jerry's probably really well intentioned. I think
except Jerry. Okay, all organizations except Jerry. Okay, I
think the
Jerry,
richest one of them all is probably actually the nicest. Maybe
Jerry actually shows loyalty to a fault to some of his players, like he did with an aging Zeke. Like,
yeah, it's true.
A lot of people say he does with Dak. Now, I don't think Dak deserves all of the criticism that he tends to. He gets over criticized, and I think it's because of his contract, which does make sense. But they've been solid, making the playoffs. I know last year sucked, but I don't know if Dak deserves all of this type of criticism. What do you think?
Well, also he lost a lot of weight, so it could be a whole new.
Here we go, Dak. So. We agree, egregious. Or this performance on against the Buffalo Bills third string defense. It means that he's going to take Dak Prescott's spot, huh?
I think that is reaching, but who knows? Stranger things have happened, right? So all of a sudden, Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, came out of nowhere taking the job from Jimmy Garoppolo. And yeah, Jimmy may have had injury issues and everything like that, but stranger things have happened. So I'm not going to rule it out, but this seems like a wild stretch for one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. I don't know if Jerry would allow it, even if the coach wanted it.
Yeah. It's like with the NIL in NCAA now, where it's like, if a guy is getting paid, then coaches are incentivized to make them be the starter because otherwise you're like, oh, we're wasting money. So kind of works.
Deshaun Watson. It was the prime example this past year.
I don't want to bring it up.
The worst QBR of all time. It was undeniable that he should not be on the field. Yet he had to remain because we were paying him stupid amounts of money.
I'm sorry, Scott. I didn't want to bring it up. I didn't want to bring it up this show. It's you said it, and I'm glad you did. I hope it feels good to get that off your chest. Last thing on this is we were talking about strange, crazy things happening. Trey Lance is now in the CFL, former third overall pick for the 49ers. He's in the CFL, and it happened pretty damn quickly. I don't even know how many years that was to go from third overall to the Canadian Football League. What do you think about this? Like, I know it's hard for GMs and coaches and trying to evaluate talent. It's not an exact science, but this seems like the biggest swing and a miss that I can think of in a long, long time.
Well, okay. A big question here is what's the difference between Trey Lance and Joe Milton? Because Trey just got shipped off from Dallas to the CFL. I feel for the guy because he's had little gameplay to sort of get to that level of development that's probably needed. But I mean, beyond that, it's so hard to judge on this because we have so little to go off of. I don't know anything about Trey and based on and like his talent level because we've never seen him.
I think that these organizations, these teams are seeing something in practice where they're just like,
They have to
they
be.
must be.
I mean, if you're going to be a third overall pick, okay, and not get like any real opportunity, you have to be so bad with the opportunities you've been given in practice. I mean, you're going to be given prime opportunity in practice with the ones as much as it takes to validate their decision. And if you're going to blow that, you have to be really, really bad.
Well, in his defense, think about the scenario and the situations he's been in. So he came in, he was with the 49ers, right?
Right.
And he was stuck behind Brock Purdy, who, as I just mentioned, was Mr. Irrelevant and was playing at a super high level, like super high level to where it was just like, oh my goodness, did we strike gold here? Like, are we willing to, just because we picked this guy at a high level because we were uncertain of Brock at that moment in time, are we willing to mess this good thing up with Brock that we have stumbled upon? Are we willing to force him in there? And then secondarily, he goes to the Cowboys. And we were just talking about Jerry not allowing because of the pay toward Dak Prescott. I don't know, while I agree with you generally, Mikey, that if you're the third overall pick and you're not getting like shoved in there because you're the third overall pick to perform, I think his two scenarios that he was in, I don't think they lent toward that similar approach because they were just so unique.
Maybe he's just not a practice player. Maybe he's one of these guys.
Gamer, man.
I just put him in the game.
Put him in the game.
You know, that could be possible.
Probably, maybe.
That was my excuse in college too, Mike.
Gamer.
I'm
You
just
gotta
not a
put me
good
in.
practice player. I'm not a good test taker. Those people.
We will see how. We'll see how he does in the CFL in those games. It's tough. He came from FCS. He didn't really even have that much college tape. Like it was. Wasn't it weird? Wasn't he drafted right at? Was that the COVID year? That was a weird year.
He's 24. Yeah. What year was he drafted? That
Because
was
he also had like guys like
21.
Is that
Yeah.
COVID?
Yeah, he
or
was at North
season
Dakota
after.
State. Yeah.
He had
21.
guys like Zach Wilson drafted then. I think that was a tough time to evaluate talent because everything was just so weird. You had different schedules. I don't know. I think there's a lot of I give the 49ers a little bit of grace in that. And credit to them also for moving off of it and not clinging to a heavy anchor right there. And just like, yeah, screwed up. Darn it. Whoops. Happens. Sunk cost. All right. There we have it. Good stuff. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and we will see you on the next one.